Doug, do you see a shift of global power from west to east? Will there be two separate systems, one in a dollar, ever shrinking sphere, and one in a so called Sino Russian prosperous sphere? Just like with the Roman Empire collapsed, the western part saw a dark age while the eastern remained prosperous until the Ottoman conquest?
Yeah, that's a pretty complex answer that is warranted here because, on the one hand, you got to say, with the huge, much delayed great leap forward that the Chinese made, starting with Deng Xiaoping in 1980, I mean, it's really quite incredible the way China has leaped forward. But on the other hand, I think that all of the Chinese banks are bankrupt. My opinion is that the Belt and Road Initiative is going to turn out to be a huge boondoggle, which is going to wind up antagonizing all these countries that the Chinese built infrastructure that suits them in. So China could actually fly apart, and they could go back to a situation like the warlords in the 1920s. I mean, there's no guarantee that China's gonna hang together. Once their banks go bust, which they probably will, because they've lent, hundreds of billions of dollars on this mega project of the Chinese, plus scores of cities built unoccupied in the middle of nowhere, and bridges and roads in the middle of nowhere. These banks go bust, pension funds go bust, the stock market goes bust. These are all done by companies. And Mrs. Wu, when she goes to get her yuan out of the bank, she'll be very, very unhappy, saving 50% of her income and finding that she either can't get the yuan. This is happening now, incidentally. Yep. Or later, the yuan is worth nothing. This could be explosive in China.
Yeah, not only that, I saw a statistic on Zero Hedge yesterday or the day before that the youth unemployment rate in China right now is 19.3%. That's like double the youth unemployment rate in the US. I think that's like ages like 16 to 26. Now, that's the group that sets stuff on fire if things aren't going well for them. And to have a large percentage of the population unemployed, I think really is a dangerous situation there for them.
Especially since you don't want to forget the one child policy, which was in effect in China for a generation and a half anyway. Yep. So you've got this huge wave of unmarried young men without females to hang around with. I mean, and there's nothing, the most dangerous animal in the history of the planet, more dangerous than the Tyrannosaurus Rex, is the young unmarried male. So they've got lots of those. And the other thing, all these factories in China, which have benefited the whole world, cranking out cheap stuff, as the standard of living in the rest of the world goes down, well, they're not going to be making stuff or selling stuff. And, there will be trade barriers against them. So more unemployed people and bankrupt factories. I think that a great part of the Greater Depression, like everything else in the world today, is going to be made in China, actually.
Right.
Partially.
I mean, you imagine if they have lots of internal chaos there, and that makes them less able or less reliable producers of the goods and services that the world relies on. The entire world relies on them as some seriously important components in every. The effect you could have a real supply crisis essentially if they are unable for whatever reason to continue to produce the things that the world needs. I mean, you could go into a serious decline in the standard of living of everyone around the world if for some reason they have internal conflict that starts to affect that, which looks like it's on the way.
Yeah. It does. And everybody's counting on. So I guess the question was, if the world breaks up into two blocks, is everything going to be hunky dory in the Russia-China block? I think no. And it's definitely not going to be well, it's going to be, once again, going back to Orwell, where you had East Asia, Eurasia, and Oceania were the three powers in the world. I mean, it's funny how predictive sci-fi can be.
Yeah, it's amazing.